Why is the CEO of ASML bullish on China, despite the export restrictions? 3.5 reasons that might surprise you. In a Dutch TV interview on the 4th of September, the CEO of ASML shared his view on the export restrictions and the future of ASML and the worldwide chip industry. And he brought forward some interesting views. Peter Wennink is actually quite bullish on China. And the first reason for that is that he is saying that the most urgent transitions of society don't need the most advanced chips. So the export restrictions that were imposed by the US government will not slow down those transitions. He's saying that China is leading in all these big transitions, which also gives them a competitive advantage in the world market. When we look at EVs, for example, the Chinese EV brands are now flushing the European market with high quality EVs that the European brands don't come even close to. Especially in the area of autonomous driving, which is going to be the main edge in the coming 5 to 10 years. Despite the fact that China is still opening coal plants, they are also opening a lot more solar parks and wind energy parks. So also in the clean energy transition, they are going a lot faster than either the US or Europe. But I only count this reason for 0.5. Why? Because basically this reason is already outdated since the new export controls were published lately, and ASML is going to need to request permits at the US government for everything they're going to ship to China. So saying that these export restrictions only have a limited impact is already not true anymore. The ever increasing export restrictions are having an impact, and it's only going to be more. In response to the latest export restrictions, the CEO told that for the short term there's not much impact, but how the longer term geopolitical situation will play out for ASML is the billion-dollar question, as he said it. When the CEO calls something like this the billion-dollar question, you know it's serious. So please listen to my podcast on export controls, in which I try to answer this billion-dollar question. So, although the first reason might be outdated by reality, the other reasons are still valid and maybe even increasing in relevance with these latest developments. Because all these export controls might actually help the Chinese. Why is that? What the CEO of ASML told is that the bigger the problem, the bigger the innovation. This is a universal rule and has been coming out for all human history. And he is saying that with 1.4 billion people, China will innovate their way out of this. And basically, these export controls forces the Chinese to be very innovative. And they will be, he says. And by the way, he also says that maths and physics work the same way in China as they do in Europe. Basically, what he's saying, sooner or later, these Chinese will innovate their next step in the chip sector. So in that respect, you can wonder whether these export controls actually achieve the opposite of what they've been set up for. Aside from an increasing rate of innovation, if the increasing protectionism continues, which it seems to do right now, and the world was split up in 3 geopolitical blocks, being the USA, Europe and Asia, it is exactly this degree of innovation that will determine the winners of the future. And Europe is clearly behind in having a clear vision of how to tackle the big transitions of society of the future in terms of clean energy, EVs, but also battery technology. In this respect, China is miles ahead. The best EVs and the best batteries are already coming from China. And as we said, the rate of innovation will only increase. This basically means that Europe is falling behind on both the USA and Asia. Or as Peter Wennink said, in the Netherlands and basically in Europe, we are too dumb, too fat and too happy. When you put this very clear statement in a bigger picture, he actually means to say, in the Netherlands and Europe, we are too complacent. Europe is lagging. And there's this existing culture causing society not to see the problem. If we don't change, our current standard of living in Europe will inevitably deteriorate. So, what does Europe need to do to catch up? First of all, governments have to develop the vision of how Europe is going to tackle the big problems of society we mentioned before. Businesses have to contribute more than they are doing now. This basically means more investing in knowledge. There has to be more knowledge migration rather than less. 40% of ASML workers are international, and 40% of all technical university graduates are international in the Netherlands. In order to accommodate this knowledge migration, businesses also have to contribute more to the social problem this is causing. This means contributing to housing all of these expats that are coming to Europe and the Netherlands. As I said, the new export controls that came out last week are changing the picture entirely altogether again. Please listen to my podcast on the new export controls to see what this means for ASML and the global chip market. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and like.